It's home to two of the best roller coasters in Europe, but it's also home to one of the worst, if not the worst. It's a park of two very different halves. One side is sleek, modern and immersive, while the other feels more like a fever dream filled with bootleg IPs and directionless theming. I am of course talking about Energylandia in Poland. Here's my review of the park and what you need to know before you go. I was there as part of a very short jaunt over to Poland. We landed in Krakow at about 10 a.m. on Sunday and headed straight from the plane to a town called Hyperion. You'll have to forgive my pronunciation there, but you may know it better as Auschwitz. Energylandia is around 25 minutes drive away from the Auschwitz Memorial and Museum, so I'd really recommend visiting if you're able. Now for the park. Once you go through the turnstiles at the entrance, you go into this kind of little square where there's a nice selection of shops and food outlets and entertainment from some suspiciously familiar characters. It's from here where you'll head into the front half of the park. This is the older part of Energylandia, which, quite frankly, feels kind of cheap. It's very disjointed, the theming doesn't match up, and it's just full of random stuff. There's lots of kiddie and family rides here, and a few funfair style attractions. As a matter of fact, the whole area does feel more like a funfair than a theme park. But to be honest with you, I didn't mind it. Sure, there's a lot of crap and bright headache-inducing advertising, but there's also some nice planting, plenty of food and drink options, and it generally seems to improve as you walk through, bar the odd random coliseum or smoking volcano. The first half is also where you'll find Hyperion, an Intamin mega coaster with a 269-foot drop and a top speed of 88 miles per hour. I'm a sucker for an airtime heavy hyper, and when I first rode Hyperion, I did wonder if I'd prefer it to even Zadra. But no, that wasn't the case. It didn't even beat the likes of Shambhala for me. But it's still a great ride. You only have a lap bar, and that first drop down into a tunnel is mega intense. You get a lot of airtime over the hills, and the turnaround is interesting. It does count as an inversion, I'd say. It's basically a dive drop. And what makes Hyperion special is the final part of the ride where you fly through a number of smaller hills and whippy banked turns that are all very low to the ground, and that's just before you enter the brake run. And all this just adds to the overall ride duration. Comparing front to back, on the front row you get a lot of hang time over that 84-degree drop and great views. But remember, you have to wear goggles on the front row of Hyperion, which took away from the experience for me because I was nervous about losing them and they restricted my view a little. So perhaps in this case, back is best, particularly if you want a wilder ride. You really get whipped over the hills, there's better ejector airtime, and it's generally a more chaotic ride experience on the back. If you don't want a more intense ride and you don't want to wear the goggles, then I suggest you try and opt for somewhere in the middle. Hyperion has a well-themed queue line as well, particularly if you compare it to the rest of the area you're in. It's all based around a trip to Saturn's moon called Hyperion, so there's lots of retro futuristic sci-fi designs, and it's good, even if the Pepsi branding does pull you out of the immersion just a little. The queue line is long, by the way. This was filmed on a very quiet day at the park, and we had to walk up some stairs, up some more stairs, and more stairs again, just to go all the way back down, plus a little detour outside. Has anyone ever seen the Hyperion queue line at high capacity? I mean, how much of this queue is even used? It's worth noting as well, before you get to the station, the queue splits into 4 different lines, and riders can arrange themselves depending on how many seats are available or on where they want to sit, at the front for example, but that line will likely always be a little bit longer. It's a good system, and I'll talk more about the queue lines at Energylandia later on in this video. Also in the first older half of the park, you have Formula, a Vekoma launched coaster which has been here since 2016, almost exactly 2 years after Energylandia first opened. The area around Formula is sort of like an understated Wish version of Ferrari Land at Portaventura World in Spain. It's not bad. There's a pizza restaurant with a large balcony and lots of outdoor seating. And the ride itself is pretty good. It has a very compact layout that doesn't go too high after the first Sidewinder loop. The LSM launch is fine, reaching just short of 50 miles per hour in 2 seconds. It's fun and very smooth. There are just bigger and better roller coasters in the park now. Next door to Formula, you have Dragon Roller Coaster, or RMF Dragon Roller Coaster. This is a steel suspended coaster, once again, manufactured by Vekoma. You may notice a bit of a pattern forming here. But this ride, I think, is a pleasant surprise. The theming seems to lean into the tackier side again, just a bit. But the first drop is into a dragon's mouth. You're over water for a lot of the layout, and it's pretty forceful, but really comfortable as well. And that's because of the lap bar restraints. You get some good Gs around the helixes, and the ride feels really smooth and open. A solid family coaster. Definitely don't miss this one if you're visiting Energylandia. Now we move to the newer back half of the park, and this is where the magic is, really. Here you'll find the likes of Zadra, a massive RMC hailed by many as one of the best coasters on the continent, if not in the world. It's also home to Sweet Valley, a sort of dreamy candy-themed area aimed at families and kids. And then you've got Abyssus, a multi-launch coaster manufactured by Vekoma, of course. This half of the park is a major step up from the front. It's more immersive and coherent, with distinct themed zones, and it's just a nicer place to be than in the muddled first half. And because Energylandia is so big, you do have to walk through a pedestrian tunnel, which literally goes under a road in order to get to the back half. I am going to talk a little bit about food now because it's in the area by Zadra that we decided to grab something to eat and drink. We ended up getting a massive bucket of fried chicken to share with lots of different sauces like garlic mayo, sweet chili, and all that kind of stuff. But you're really not limited when it comes to food options at Energylandia. There's noodles, kebabs, hot dogs, burgers, pierogies, loaded fries, churros, donuts, stew. Yeah, you name it. There's lots to choose from. And some of these outlets, like Wrap and Go, which sells wraps and sandwiches, do offer vegan and vegetarian options as well. So I'd say most tastes will be catered for here. Oh, and how could I not mention, the beer is good and there's places to grab cocktails as well. Now, you might want to make sure the beer's gone down before you ride this next beast. By far the best ride in the park for me is, no surprises here, Zadra, an RMC steel hybrid coaster that opened back in 2019. Firstly, the area around Zadra is beautiful. I'm not even going to try and pronounce its name, but it translates to Dragon's Den or Dragon's Lair and has a mystical medieval kind of vibe to it. By far my favourite area, not just because it has the best ride in the park, it's also a really nice place to chill out, eat or drink with some great views of Zadra's first drop and the stall looming over the buildings. The queue line for Zadra is another epic, by the way. Even on a quiet day, you have to walk quite a lot to get to the station and even cross over a road. I like getting my steps up at a theme park, but do bear in mind there's lots of walking involved at Energylandia. Now, I don't even know where to start with Zadra. Honestly, it's just great. Certainly in my top 5. It has a max speed of 75 miles per hour, a 206-foot drop, so the same as Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens in Tampa, and 3 inversions, including a fantastic zero-G stall, leaving you hanging there for seconds before quickly twisting 180 degrees into a descent. This coaster is so fast, it absolutely canes it round the layout, and it keeps up that pace all the way to the very end. You really fly into the brake run with such surprising force. You're sort of pushed forward over the restraint right at the end there. On the front row, the goggles are back, but you feel so close to the track on the front. It does seem kind of worth it. But like many coasters, it's a lot more intense towards the back. The seats are comfortable, you don't get knocked around much at all, despite how aggressive the ride looks. Also, you really don't have much to hold on to. You only have a lap bar with a seatbelt underneath, but there's two little straps by your legs to hold on to if you really want to. But generally, you feel very exposed going up the lift hill and into that very steep first drop. Like with many RMCs, you put on your own seatbelt first and the ride ops will come round and close the lap bar for you. And then you just, well, enjoy it. Zadra is packed full of airtime, whippy transitions. It's intense, graceful and ferocious all at the same time. For me, it did not matter what the rest of the park was like. For coaster enthusiasts, Zadra is worth a trip out to Poland alone. On a side note, I really liked the Zadra gift shop. Energylandia has some good merchandise, actually. I felt like I'd look pretty badass drinking wine out of the Zadra-themed goblets, when I have my friends over or something. If you're wondering what happens to all your stuff while you're on all these rides, by the way, because lots of theme parks have different rules when it comes to storing bags, at Energylandia they have a locker system, which you do have to pay for. It's about £2.50 for a wristband that can then be used at all the lockers on all the rides around the park. You can't leave your bags on the station. You can only do that with sunglasses and phones and small items like that. They have a good system in the queue lines as well, with these little counters at the turnstiles as you enter the station, which indicate how many spaces are left on each train, which is good if you're with a group and you all want to go on the same ride. Just to rattle off a few of the other bigger thrill rides here at the park, as I mentioned earlier, you have Abyssus in the same newer half of Energylandia as well as Zadra. It's themed around Atlantis and it's done well with lots of water and pretty good decorative ruins. Abyssus has two launches, an initial LSM launch, then a boost. It has a top speed of 62 miles per hour, but it doesn't feel like it. This ride is more of a family thrill coaster. It has the height and it has the length. It's a pretty long ride. But that first launch isn't very forceful at all. The second one is better. As a matter of fact, the whole second half of the ride is better in my opinion. But there's a lot of meandering and dead spots, but it's well worth having on the bill. It's another cred, and it's good for people who maybe want a thrill, but not something as intense as Zadra or Hyperion. There's also Mayan, which is just over the boundary back in the first half of the park, and this is, a Vekoma SLC. I really don't like suspended looping coasters, but this one is better than others I've ridden, to be fair to it. It's pretty forceful and it's far more comfortable than other SLCs. You have a vest-style restraint, so there's no cracking your head on the inside of an over-the-shoulder restraint like on Blue Tornado at Gardaland, which is the worst coaster I've ever been on. Well, it was until I went on Viking. Seriously, what on earth is this coaster? Why is this coaster? Why is it here? It's a wild mouse, but with over-the-shoulder restraints, and the ride kicks off by making you bang your head. Listen to this. Ow! Oh no! The whole thing is just so uncomfortable. It actually hurts. And I'll admit I was warned about this and I ignored the warnings, and now I have learnt my lesson. This thing is horrible and needs demolishing. Next door to Viking, you also have the most forceless drop tower in the world. But you know what? You get some good views of Zadra from up there. Despite everything I've just said, these less than impressive rides only make up a small portion of what's on offer at Energylandia. It actually has 19 roller coasters in total currently. There's 2 boomerang coasters because why not? There's Light Explorers near Abyssus and another one called just Boomerang, which is nicely themed, fun. I think the idea is that you are a bat flying around through the roofs of some houses. Frida was also a nice surprise where you get 2 laps round and you even get a bit of hang time as you go over that first drop and you sort of fly over some big decorative water lilies on a little pond below you. To summarise, I was worried the tacky first half of Energylandia might leave a sour taste. But I got the feeling that the folk that run the park really want you to have a good time and be well fed. Operations were good. I don't think I noticed a single ride having any downtime. There's so much to do that I haven't covered in this video, and the park isn't very old. The Polish government and the EU have put some money into this theme park, so they've built a lot in a very short time. It'd be nice to see them now work on that first half of the park and give it a bit more direction. But even now, as it is, it's got 2 world-class headline coasters and plenty more on the bill. There's something for everyone at Energylandia, and would I recommend you visit? Yeah, I would. I had a great time there, and I think you will too. So on that note, thanks for watching. I'm going to Plopsaland and Park Asterix very, very soon, not to mention a big trip to the US. So there'll be more of this to come and more still on my TikTok and my Instagram. You can find me by searching Scream Queen, but that's Scream with 3 M's because Scream Queen was already taken. So once again, thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.